Hello, this is Glennae. I am the founder and CEO at Glennae's RX for Life, a career burnout consultancy and healthcare education agency. And today I want to come through and talk to you about the 4 workplace traumas. Let me just grab my notes. So I want to talk to you today about understanding the 4 workplace trauma responses. This is for nurse-led recovery. When we talk about workplace trauma, especially in the healthcare, we often think about major events, major violent events that take place in the workplace, disasters, disaster preparedness, emergencies. But the truth is, trauma in nursing and in professional lives, particularly as a Black woman in America, doesn't always come from a single dramatic event. It can come from the daily grind of discrimination, moral distress, unsafe assignments, and the constant fear of retaliation. Over time, these pressures shape how we respond, not because we're weak, but because our bodies are wired for survival. There are 4 main ways that show up. You may have heard of them. They're fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. So today I want to walk you through each one, not just to name them, but to show you how in nurse-led recovery, each one can be turned into reactive power. So the first one is flight response, when survival looks like anger. In the workplace, the flight response can look like snapping back at the manager, raising your voice in meetings, and being labeled as the angry nurse, the angry Black woman, or just a difficult employee. But what's actually happening? Your body is defending itself. The adrenaline spikes, the heart races, and the brain is saying, I need to protect myself. I need to protect my values now. So when it comes to the fight in the understanding the 4 workplace traumas, I want you to reframe the thinking, and using our nurse recovery system, we want you to know that we do not shame the fight response. We channel it. Instead of letting anger implode or explode, and then you being labeled or set up for failure at work with your yearly evaluation, that you're not meeting expectations or whatever the case may be for you, we want to help you turn it into structured advocacy. That means using your voice, your documentation, the workplace policies, your rights strategically. So you're not just fighting the system, you're fighting for your health, for your license, for your dignity, for your mental health, for your right to remain employable, whether or not it's inside the same industry or not, but to remain employable and to keep your career intact. Number 2 is the flight response, when survival looks like escape. The flight response often shows up as avoidance. Maybe you're calling off shifts, pulling away from coworkers, or even saying, I'm done with nursing altogether. I get it. When you learn how to set boundaries, healthy boundaries in the workplace, nurses will not experience compassion fatigue. You may experience compassion fatigue because you're not receiving the compassion and being provided with a viable solution for yourself. That's what compassion means, is to see someone suffering and to be able to provide a path and a way for that person. Nurses do that all the time, and then they also suffer, but no one provides a safe path for them. to recover. So for many, this looks like weakness or burnout for people on the outside looking in. But I remind nurses all the time, this is your survival system talking. This is your cellular response. This is the kingdom of God that's within you. This is the body saying, I need to do something. I need out of this before it harms me further. This is your opportunity to love. So instead of running without direction, we teach nurses how to take safe, structured breaks. That could mean using your FMLA strategically, setting up boundaries, or entering into recovery planning so that you take your breaks and use your break time as restorative, not a permanent abandonment of your career. Flight doesn't mean quitting, it can be rebuilding from a safe distance, taking a step back so you can look forward. Sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees. Sometimes we don't appreciate the journey because we're always trying to get to the goal. And I know many of you are already using your FMLA to take off a strategic day off through the week. But what are you doing to plan that? I talked in a video yesterday about this being your workplace challenge, and then this being you and using FMLA or avoiding moving past the challenge or the situation because maybe you fear retaliation or you fear job loss and these bills are not going to pay themselves. That's really an act of unbelief because this is your challenge, and through it is how you get over it, is how you overcome it. But many people are using the FMLA to just walk this fine line and never moving ahead. You can use your FMLA however you want to. I'm not here to restructure it or change it, but I do want to help you overcome the stressor and the challenge so that you grow in your life. You teach yourself in your professionalism and your personal development and your professional development grows, and you can show these things to your children and next generation to overcome challenges that so often our people, my people as nurses, my people as career professionals, my people as Black women usually tolerate so that we can keep the benefit of what it is that we're working for. Um, you cannot lose a good thing, okay? Number three, the freeze response. When survival looks like silence. Freeze is one of the hardest because it looks like you're doing nothing. You might be staring at a chart, unable to think. You might comply with unsafe orders because your brain literally locks up. You may feel numb, like your voice, your training, your instincts don't matter. In the corporate world, this is called presenteeism, and it's a pretty dangerous position to be in. This is how moral injury sets in. The freeze response convinces you that silence is safer than speaking up. Silence is never safer than speaking up. Silence is always going to be violence when something is taunting you, when a stressor is impacting the way that you feel, when you're being pressed down on all sides and you're just accepting it because you want to maintain a comfort. I don't know how that's comfortable, but I see how we're comfortable in discomfort sometimes because we don't know anything else and we haven't seen anything else. So if you can reframe your thinking about just showing up but being absent while you're present and engage in what it is that you're supposed to be doing, that can help you. And so when nurses unfreeze through gentle, practical steps like grounding exercises, journaling, fasting, and prayer, learning how to speak safe sentences, not just to yourself, but to the environment that you're in. You're called to move mountains, right? You're called to do that. So if something is in your way, then that is your responsibility to send it on its way. The goal isn't to blame you for freezing, not at all. It's to help you to thaw and to reconnect and to trust your instincts, to make choices that's rooted in recovery instead of receiving the disease process that we get from paralysis. And then the fourth is fawn response, when survival looks like people pleasing. Fawn may be the most dangerous in healthcare because it hides behind professionalism. It looks like you're saying yes to unsafe assignments, working overtime because you don't want to let the team down, or tolerating discrimination because you want to keep the peace. So I want to talk about really quickly before I move on about this. You remember that old cliche, there's no I in team? There isn't, but there is a me in team. There is a me in team. And if you're not filling yourself up, pouring into your own cup, you cannot pour out to other people. We are designed, spiritually designed, to give from our overflow. And keeping the peace, there's a difference between a peacemaker and a peacekeeper. You want to be a peacemaker. Sometimes a peacemaker um, seems as if they're causing issues and problems, but what you're doing is uncovering the darkness so that you can follow the light. We can only heal in light. We can only heal in truth. Peacemakers tolerate. They accept the status quo. They don't want to make a fuss about anything. But no matter how you're doing it, underneath is all about survival. And if you want to come to an expected end, if you want to have health, equity, and justice, then doing this in a strategic way will help keep you safe. Sometimes compliance with the culture of the organization will never keep you safe, but compliance with the law and compliance with the workplace law, the state, federal laws is what keeps you safe. This is not being, I don't want to say this is not about being rebellious because it's obviously a rebellion to go against what the culture is doing. But aren't you valuable enough for the fight? Aren't your dreams and your visions valuable and worth fighting for? So, in our nurse led model, this fawn transforms into assertive advocacy. Not aggressive, assertive. Not nice, but kind. That means practicing how to say no and putting a period there. You don't have to over explain your no. How to negotiate assignments and how to put your health on the table in the center of care. That's a non-negotiable. Instead of pleasing your way into exhaustion, you learn to protect your way through longevity. Maybe you're like me and you've heard stories of nurses who took one more assignment and then they ran into some trouble at work where maybe they overdosed a patient, their fatigue kicked in, their exhaustion kicked in, and they misread an order and executed on that, and they moved past all the fail stops because it just wasn't resonating with them that they were making errors. Exhaustion can lead to sudden death for yourself and for your patient. Okay. So in closing, I just want to say that the right way to cope, whether you're in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, those are not flaws. Those are all signals. What I want to bring to your attention right now is that over the years, the medical and healthcare industry, psychiatry, psychology, whomever it may be, has quietly shifted the meaning of cope from meeting force with force until you overcome to something closer to tolerate, for tolerance, to accepting things that hurt you, to be mindful of something that is irritating you, to make peace with something that is hurting you. I don't know why anybody wants to do that because it's not healthy for you. You want to cope appropriately. You want to cope without the need of a medical diagnosis. You want to cope without the need of taking prescription medications. You want to cope by overcoming that challenge or that stressor that is keeping you from what God has for you, for what is on the other side of that challenge that is scaring you, that is causing you to cower, that is causing you to be in compliance with wrongdoing. It's causing you to have these trauma responses, but yet ignore your body. The damage that comes from ignoring your body when you have trauma responses is called idiopathic diseases and autoimmune diseases. We are not meant to tolerate what harms us, not at work, not for a benefit, not for a paycheck, not for any of those things. Understanding these four workplace trauma responses shows you how to professionally address and challenge and get back to business. At Glennae's Arcs for Life, through the nurse recovery system, we turn those signals into real time, real world strategies that advance your healing, protect your license, and strengthen your practice. We benefit both the organization and the individual. Our work, our nurse led recovery, is a win win. If you recognize yourself here, you do not have to stay in reaction mode. You can overcome the workplace stressor standing in the way of your personal and professional development. Learn more at Glennae's Arcs for Life. Until next time, be well.